In South Africa, there's a distinct gap in financial literacy. Many up-and-coming athletes and even seasoned professionals lack the knowledge and skills to secure long-term financial well-being. Now, Investec believes that education is one of the most powerful tools to creating enduring worth. As a trusted financial partner for athletes and their supporters, it's committed to equipping athletes and you at home with the information, guidance and skills we all need throughout our wealth creation journeys. Welcome to Everything Counts Sports Edition. In this episode, we're going to be talking about creating wealth for athletes, especially in a career that's quite finite and quite limited in terms of time. We're again joined by our experts, Schalk, Vumi and Moses. Welcome back to Everything Counts Sports Edition. I want to speak to the first 90 days, Moses, of getting that major contract. How do you map out, a path for that athletes so that they manage this big check that's just come in?
It's a very, very critical question you're asking. So, in an athlete's world, money just comes in. Often there's no plan that is set out. There hasn't been a thought process around the spending part of it. Even though you can afford it, you don't know how long your career is. So I think one has to take one or two steps back. And I think the ultimate goal at the end of it is to ensure that you've built a successful career as an athlete, you've saved enough. But there's quite a lot of work that actually has to go in before you actually do that. First check comes in. For the first 90 days, you have to set out discipline and practical things to do. So first thing is to ensure that you will have enough liquidity, access to capital around emergency funds, around your travel. You have to fund your own travel. Again, it goes back to what type of sport discipline are you part of? If I'm a golfer, I'm going to be funding my trips, my accommodation, I need to pay my coaches. You need to ensure that for the next 3 to 6 months, you've created this liquidity component that's going to take care of that. And then we look at, well, beyond the saving and liquidity component, what does it look like going forward? Is there stability around earnings? If there's no consistency around the income that you'll be receiving, you need to ensure that you first take care of the 3 to 6 months. I will be okay. In fact, build a little bit of buffer should something go wrong. If you get injured the next day, it doesn't make sense having invested into something that's 5 to 10 years because...
But not taking care of needs right
100%.
now.
So you need to start with the now. And the now will also address how you're going to allocate this capital and sit with this for the next 90 days. So I would say for the first 30 days, you're looking at just cash flow. Ensure that for the next 3 to 6 months, you are solid. The next perhaps 30 to 60 days, you start to implement a plan and see how sustainable is this going forward. Am I going to meet my investment objectives over the next 3 to 6 months and beyond? Obviously, once you get to that 60 to 90 days, you're able to sit around a team that will really take care of you. Similar to your current environment as an athlete, where you've got a team around you. You need to have the same thing from a financial perspective, from an investment perspective, because it gets very, very complex. And that's a great sounding board team to have, to ensure that I will be able to structure accordingly. I am building out a plan and you understand the consistency of that plan to ensure that you instill discipline. So you know that I will be winning, or I've got a continuous salary, this is what it looks like, and I've got a plan in place to ensure that it meets my long-term objectives. We always refer to long-term, and long-term is not around short-term. It's not a short-term incentive or something that you enjoy in the short term. In fact, you can't even see the long-term. But the compounding effect is really, really effective. So it's around the long-term planning. It's around ensuring that you're teaming with the right team that can assist you. For an international play, it becomes very difficult, very complex. You need to ensure that you've got the capabilities. You need to ensure that you've got the right tools, the right team to ensure that they understand, even from a tax perspective, from a structuring perspective, from an expertise perspective, that these are the guys that I want to trust. So first 90 days is just ensuring that I'll be okay for the next 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months, perhaps building a little bit of fat in there, and ensure that any surplus and any income or even any winnings coming thereafter, I'm able to structure correctly.
Vumi, we've already established that with athletes and sporting people, it's not conventional, right? So when you look at the solutions of a mid-career athlete coming in and saying, I've got 15 years, what can we do? What can you tailor with me to make sure that, I'll feel a bit safer when I retire?
Motheo, I think what we do really well at Investec is we tailor our solutions to each individual athlete. So you really can't take one financial plan, your teammate's financial plan and estate plan, and apply it to your life. That's not how it works.
They're not all the same.
They're not all the same. The needs aren't the same. Your next couple of years are not going to look the same. So what that helps with is we also narrow down the solutions to tailor it to you. So you'll find that a lot of athletes don't know where to start because even outside of Investec's investment solutions, there's so many other investments out there that they may be so confused by. But my job and our job as a team is to actually narrow it down, tailor it to you, and make sure that even when we say and articulate that insurance is important, being insured is critical, but being overinsured could also be borderline critical too. When we do give advice, it's to tailor it to you as an individual so that it takes care of you and your family long term, but also making sure that you're not paying for premiums, for instance, that you shouldn't be paying for.
Yeah, those T's and C's is a conundrum.
Oh yeah.
Because the reality is you see these documents and like, oh my goodness, what does it cover and what doesn't cover? A lot of them does just go, okay, you tell me what it is, and I'll sign at the bottom. What am I protected for? And I've seen some horrible stories when it comes to injuries.
Is it tough then, or let me say, was it tough for you as a player to have found the solutions that you need with the amount of time you had in your career? You had 20 years. Was it easy to find the right products for you and your family in terms of creating your wealth and making sure you're secure the day you hung up your boots?
Look, you don't, once again, I'm going to say, you don't know what you don't know. And the reality is, luckily I had a wife that can focus on the T's and C's and go through the contracts and explain to me how it works. But the financial world from an athlete perspective is vast and it's unsure. And it might start very simple. But as the money comes in and your assets grow and how you grow it becomes a lot more complex. Just from the basic effect where when you start earning the money, you start thinking about investing in X, Y, Z, then there's a complexity behind it. Then you go abroad or you get married, and then there's that triggers complexity. Then you have kids, that triggers complexity. From a Investec's perspective, the focus on the sports strategy is working across different divisions, but getting to the understanding of the client and their solutions. Personally, it was a nightmare with admin. Most athletes want to focus on their particular sport. Admin, give it to someone else.
Show me where to sign.
Yeah, so show me where to sign. But when it comes in my personal case and the Brits family, it was complex. So you had a South African bank account, you've got a UK bank account, you've got a bank account in Singapore, then you've tried to put wealth here, there, but you can't quantify risk because these systems aren't talking to each other. These tax advisors aren't talking to each other. One is an expert in the UK, one in South Africa. And then it's like, okay, all I wanted is something simplistic because then you get a mortgage at in another UK bank because their mortgage system or their buying a house system looks different. And so with regards to that simple things of just opening a bank account in the UK was a nightmare because you have to have, how do I say, proof of house or was it proof of address? Fine. Okay, you go to the bank, want proof of address. Then you want to take out, rent a house, but they say need a bank account. And it's like back and forth, which comes first? And so when you start looking at that complexity and you've got experts to solve that, it helps unbelievably. And what the value proposition of this is, what I would have loved, and one of the things that Investec sorted out in the Brits family is simplifying the world, the financial world out of there, that different systems speaks from South Africa to the UK and abroad.
Maybe just to expand on that value proposition, Schalk, and make it more practical. I mean, we keep referring to a team because a team actually makes you look better. It makes me look better.
Yeah.
But without a team, it becomes very siloed. So taking you, for example, Schalk, having played locally as well as internationally, a tailored solution would look at having a private banking card account, a transactional account, sort you out locally in South Africa. Equally, we understand offshore markets. We've got an offering in the UK, as an example, including Switzerland, now Dubai. including Mauritius. So when you play internationally, just purely on the transactional side, we work alongside a team, private banking team, private bankers that understands athletes, understands the different complexities around the different sport disciplines, when they travel, how long they're away for, the tax implications, transactions, travel. On the wealth and investment piece, you're earning. You earn internationally, you may be earning locally too at the same time. How do you ensure that your investment strategy really talks to what you're trying to achieve? You mentioned, you had a girlfriend, married, now you've got kids. Things evolve. And I think that's why it's critically important to get the spouse involved, or whoever may have a financial impact on your decision involved, because on the long term, it's got a massive impact. And maybe perhaps the last thing I want to kind of close off around that is the structuring piece. And we keep referring to the structuring piece. And we've got a great team, a tax and fiduciary team that really, really understands what is the client's intentions being international. Having been able to understand the cross-border implications, different currencies. Are you earning in your personal capacity? Are you earning in a structure, for example? Do you need a structure? And you also think around what Vumi mentioned, estate planning. That all goes part and parcel of what we are trying to achieve. So I guess the value proposition is to say when a client comes to Investec, whether you're an athlete or a professional or an entrepreneur, etc., you are coming in to an institution on an international basis that can really assist you on a tailored basis. And that's really the critical, I guess, factor that comes into our value proposition for an athlete.
Schalk, talking about that last 5 years of your career, I don't know, circa 2014 for you, I think it was. You look at that path that you're about to take, the last 5 years, to earn some potential through rugby and what you love to do. What was the plan then? And did you feel that you had some time pressures in order to, achieve some of your goals?
When you take a step back, the question is always, what next?
Yeah.
A doctor, a lawyer can do that for 65 and then finish and then he's done. As an athlete, you've got a second career. The fear, and we were very fortunate that the fear wasn't financial, but it would have been a lot better if I made better decisions when I was younger. And so when we start talking about psychological problems when you get past a certain age where it becomes to the last contract, last training session, that is a very fearful time of your life because it's uncertain. There's a second career that is coming, is making sure that you walk that path from the beginning to the end of what's beyond your sport. And that was actually more, and I was fortunate, that was more important and more stressful of what's next. And I guess not the injuries, not the selection, the hardest part of being an athlete is the day you leave the change room and then finding the next why, because the purpose of your next career is extremely difficult to articulate and to find.
I think you touched on such an important point that I've seen with some of the athletes that I sit with, is you can't think of your next at the end. Your next needs to be part and parcel of your financial plan. Yeah. So when Moses touched on short, medium and long-term investment time horizons, for instance, those are sort of the components we speak to unpack the next during your existing career, because we need to make provision for it from a compounding interest perspective as well, and just from an overall financial planning perspective.
I can say the stress is a lot less of the friends that I played with when there is no financial pressure. Because the reality out there, and this is everyone that's listening to it, is people buy good assets maybe, but they don't look at cash flow. It goes from nice salary to zero, and then the expenses is still there. So it's making sure that you understand this is my runway till I need to find a new job. And what a lot of guys do is, I need cash flow. I'm taking the first job that comes to me because there's a need in the background. And that's why I'm talking about the why. And if there's certainty of the journey that you want to put in place during the career of an athlete, that you understand what is the consequences when you finish. Do I have enough? What's my cash flow? When do I need to take a job? Do I take a job because I want to or because I need to.
And Vumi, when that happens, I imagine the athlete would call you to say, okay, I'm done playing.
What now?
I still want to live the life I'm living now. What are my options? So what is the conversation there to say, okay, your lifestyle might change a little bit. You might have to drop your golfing fees for a while, and let's see how we work it out for you.
I want to reiterate, though, that it's never too late to speak to a financial advisor. Yes, it's beneficial to do it at the beginning of your career, but even at the end, it's never too late. However, there are components you would have missed out on that when you do come and speak to a financial advisor, then we have to just be real about it and say, what can we cut down on and what can we not, just to change the picture and plan for the next couple of steps,
They'll come to you then, Moses, to say, you've been telling me to save and put my money in all these different pots. Is it still compounding? What kind of structure are you putting in place then after retirement when the money's not coming in anymore?
It is very, very critical. In fact, I mentioned it earlier, when you get your first contract. Your first contract is not wealth. It's not wealth at that point in time. It's just an income that's come in that's going to serve a specific purpose over the next couple of months, because the reality is you're still in the phase of building your investable assets. So the intention is you've got a plan from the beginning and you're able to structure. And remember, an athlete, next week you can be injured, and then what? You've got this one contract. So that's where the complexity comes in for an athlete, because as a professional, I can be working and I can go play soccer, get injured, but I'm still able to walk and I can still work, I can still talk. That's the complexity around athletes. So it's really ensuring that you try get your ABCs correct from the get-go, if possible. But to Vumi's point, it's never too late. Obviously, you have to work with what you currently have. And it may mean, letting go of certain lifestyle habits. Even an athlete has got high pressure around, the generosity. You know that you've got this contract and you've been paid X and you feel generous to pay big lump sums to whatever. It's actually not, the distinction is actually not around, how much you're giving, but it's around the how and why you're doing it. But critically, it's important that you structure correctly. So just coming back and answering your question around the structure piece is to ensure that whatever investment you're going to be going into is going to last you as long as possible. And we have to be realistic. There's inflation pressures. Currently at the moment, there is obviously geopolitics that are playing out. Markets are volatile. So your safety component may be okay, but for the long term, you need to ensure that you've got enough capital to sustain you for the rest of your life. Do you need to maybe get something in place, or income replacement, go do some work? And I think often athletes forget that they're an actual asset. So you're actually creating a brand. You're a currency of your own.
So investing in yourself.
So investing in yourself. So whether it's a case of, if I'm a golfer, I'm going to have a golfing facility, something that's going to generate passive income, because people will come to me, they want to learn about how I did it, how I became so successful. That's just something to just think about. And it's not necessarily just on the sporting face of it. You can even go into corporate, similar to Schalk. He's brought in incredible knowledge around what's the psyche of a sports person, an athlete.
The earlier you start, the more decisions you have at the end. There is a financial investment, that's a self-investment in education. And so where we're sitting is trying to make sure understanding the beginning, the middle, the end, and the life after sport. That is the biggest thing where we want to solve. And as we said, the best time is now. Even if it was yesterday, it's now come to us. Let's put our knowledge around it. Let's take the emotional part, the psychological part, the understanding of the pressures outside, and then give a solution that's tailored to your needs.
On that note, I want all your key takeaways, starting with you, Schalk. One thing every athlete should do early.
Read a lot. And my dream is for every athlete to have a choice at the end and start investing in themselves early. Because like Moses said, you're an asset while you're playing and afterwards. But the way you use the asset is a bit different.
And Vumi, for you, the one thing all athletes should avoid doing?
With really doing my best to give you just one.
Because there's more.
Because there's several
there's a lot
that I've seen. But it's thinking they've got time. And they really don't. So the sooner you speak to a financial advisor, your wealth manager, whoever's part of your financial team, the better.
And Moses, for you, here on the block here, one thing athletes should ask themselves before making a financial decision.
Is this decision helping with my future, or is it just simply upgrading my lifestyle?
That's a great answer.
And that's how we wrap it up. The tough decisions that sports people have to make on the field also equates to the tough decisions they have to make in their own lives. And I think with the conversations we've had over the past few episodes, we now get a better understanding on why it's important to have Investec and different financial providers giving better solutions to those that have a finite career, right? When it comes to sport, it could be 10 to 15 years, not a lot of time to work with, but if the decisions are made early, a lot of wealth creation can happen there and they can score a few more goals.
The views expressed are those of the contributors at the time of publication and do not necessarily represent the views of the firm and should not be taken as advice or recommendations. Investec Private Banking, a division of Investec Bank Limited, a registered credit provider committed to the Code of Banking Practice as regulated by the National Financial Ombudsman.